Welcome to the session here in planning in Cloud EPM. The theme here is a typical theme. We're going to cover what's new and what's coming in planning cloud, but we're also going to spend a fair amount of time just talking about how you can get the most out of your investments in planning. Presumably, many of you folks are using planning cloud already, so Mark and I are going to cover a lot of material around getting the most. So I'll start with just a couple minutes here on the overview of the planning strategy. Many of you who are longtime attendees to conferences or Oracle webcasts will be familiar with some of the strategy that we have, but then we'll move on to what's new and coming. And there is some really exciting things that have come out here or are about ready to come out here in just a few days, quite frankly. And then we'll spend a little bit of time talking about getting the most from your planning. Again, my name is Marc Seewald, and I'm joined by Mark Rinaldi. We're both from the EPM product management team. Please don't hesitate to ask questions as we go through. We'll be trying to answer questions online, and then we'll have some time at the end as well to answer questions. So first off, just an obvious slide. Again, apologies for those of you who are regular attendees to webcasts like this, but for those of you who are newer, maybe to the EPM cloud, planning is part and parcel of a broader set of platform capability here. This is a slide we use to describe the entire EPM cloud, and you can see over on the right, in green, we have this concept of connect all planning. And in the center of that circle, you'll see that finance is at the center of that, but it's also surrounded by things like the rest of the business, lines of businesses like IT, like sales, like marketing, supply chain and operations, and so forth. So really, we are trying to meet the needs of planning across the entire enterprise, and it's all connected to the broader EPM cloud. So whether you're a controllers organization working on the financial close, or whether you're an FP&A or business unit finance doing more planning and forecasting. Again, two slides just to reiterate our strategy. Again, nothing new if you've been attending these conferences or webcasts for a while. First off, from a strategy perspective, planning has changed. The technology that enables planning allows it to change, which is a good thing. What we've seen over the last 20 plus years of planning, budgeting, and forecasting is in a lot of cases, organizations, FP&A in particular, will try to create a very centralized planning process, which certainly meets the needs of FP&A. FP&A gets everything they need that way. However, it really leaves out the rest of the enterprise, and it doesn't allow to FP&A to really be well connected with the execution and the operational part of the planning process. So what happens when you get into something like a pandemic like we've had over the last 18 months or so? It really prevents you from having agility. You find lots of the folks involved in planning actually create their own plans and forecasts separately in spreadsheets or other systems, and you don't have visibility into that in the FP&A side. So really what we're trying to enable is for our customers to have much more of a connected style of planning, where FP&A can get everything that they still need, just like they always have, but still enable these operational planners to plan at a different level of detail, at a different cadence, but be connected to FP&A. So it's really important to be able to do that. The economy, the world today is not getting easier. It's probably, there's still lots of risk out there. There's still, lots of things going on in the economy where finance needs to be connected to the operations. Another important part of the strategy, and this will tie right into, both these tie right into some of the enhancements we'll talk about, is really we're trying to automate the entire planning process. If you're just looking at a workforce plan, or you're just looking at a CapEx plan, or your expense plan, or your revenue plan, that's only half the battle. Really look at planning processes in much more of a holistic fashion. Think about everything that needs to be done from the moment you start to the moment you put pencils down. And that really, things like profit and costing analysis need to be done. You need to take a look at the different parts of your business and have full understanding around fully loaded costs and fully loaded profitability. Also, and we'll talk about this new phase, insight discovery. Analysis is not the same analysis that was done 20 years ago. There's new technology available to you, and actually it's coming to your pods here this Friday, that allows data science to help you improve analysis of data, finding insights in your data. And then last but not least is that management reporting, really using tools like narrative reporting or maybe FreeForm applications to help speed up the process of generating those final reports and the narrative that accompanies those management packages or board packages or exec packages, whatever you call them. So those are kind of the overview from a strategy perspective. Now let's get in and talk a little bit about what's new and what's coming. So first off, hopefully you guys are all aware of this. This is something we've been talking about for a while, but now our FreeForm applications, which is a application type specific to the enterprise EPM cloud planning processes, supports multiple cubes. Previously, a FreeForm application only supported one cube, which is great. FreeForm applications have wonderful use cases that allows you to deal with larger data. Larger dimensionality, more members and dimensions. It removes some of the overhead of a planning application where you may not necessarily need things, some of the entity dimensions, or you might not need specific account dimensions or things of that nature. So really FreeForm has been a great tool for the last couple of years, but with this new enhancement, you can see that we support 12 cubes now in an application. And that could be 12 hybrid BSO or ASO, totaling for a number of 12 there.
Or any mixture of the two. And then just Mark, to point out too, if you've seen this grid before, there have been a couple other changes, and that's around the ASO cubes within the modules based ones. The projects module has created their own reporting cube solution as well. So you'll see two underneath ASO now for the module cubes for standard, enterprise, and legacy.
Excellent. Yeah, good point. I'm glad you spoke up, Mark. I wasn't sure if you were able to join yet, so good. Good to know you're on. So again, I think this should be super exciting for customers that you have Essbase on premise today. Many of those Essbase cubes might be good candidates to move to the EPM cloud and FreeForm, and it's really great for addressing, in particular, operational planning and operational reporting. So beyond finance, when some of those financial metrics are maybe a little bit less important, and you're looking at things like operational dimensions on operational detail, that's really where maybe FreeForm can be advantageous. If you want to learn more about this, please, there is a replay on Cloud Customer Connect from October 14th where we cover that in detail. Another super exciting thing, this is a project we've been working on for 3+ years, quite frankly, 3 or 4 years now. And it's really falls into our IPM category, or our investments in emerging technology, where we actually on Friday, your development pods, your development environments will get a new enhancement for IPM Insights. IPM Insights is a pattern recognition technology that helps your team your users do analysis faster. It looks for patterns in your data and reports them back on a nice dashboard. You can see a screenshot of it. I'll give you a very quick demo of it here in a moment. But it's something we've been working on for a while, and we think it really addresses some pain within the enterprise, where we're really trying to speed up that broader process, not just speed up planning and forecasting, but also speed up analysis. So find patterns like variances, like trends, like correlations, like bias, things that are hard to spot and hard to calculate. Algorithms can do that much quicker than a human, and can, quite frankly, spot patterns that humans have difficulty finding. So why is this insight capability valuable? If you think about data analysis, let's think about, on a monthly basis or weekly basis, however frequently you bring data into your system, a new data comes in from your source systems, whether it's your general ledger or operational systems, and your users around the enterprise need to analyze that data. And what do they look for? They look for things like variances and trends and patterns and so forth. But they can't just look at total company, or they can't just look at a consolidated value. They literally need to eyeball almost every one of the data coordinates. So in this example, you can see here, if you were to look at the total company, maybe everything looks good, everything's on target for your forecast or budget. Maybe looking at total West, everything looks good. Maybe even looking down at Region C, everything looks good. But underneath the covers, if you're a retail business, maybe in this example, one store could be knocking it out of the park, and the other store is offsetting that and doing really poorly. Without eyeballing every single one of those data coordinates, you wouldn't realize that. So it's very important to do lots of ad hoc analysis and spend hours looking at all these data coordinates. What we're challenging is why have humans do that? A machine can do that much faster. And then the example on the right-hand side, it just shows a numeric example, just to kind of drive home the point of how much data human eyes need to look at. If you have a very basic system like 100 accounts, 200 products, 100 entities, 50 locations, that's 100 million potential coordinates. Now, clearly there's data sparsity, so most organizations won't have 100% sparse or 100% dense data, but still there's millions of coordinates to look at. And if that can be sped up, that's a huge benefit to the organization. So really what Insights does is it tries to automate this phase from loading the data. That's something we've been automating in EPM for years. Loading data, automating it so it can be loaded at batch at night or whatever. Calculating data, predicting data, that can all be done and automated now. But that step that happens after it, where you need to analyze the data and then review it with the business and then finally take action with it, that's really where we're trying to address. In particular, this in steps 2 and 3, where you're analyzing data and you're trying to review it with the business. Typically a very lengthy process, lots of people involved in it. Sometimes certain patterns might be missed. There's no central store of where all of these issues are, all the variances and trends and bias calculations and things of that nature. So instead of spending hours doing this kind of thing, we believe that can be automated. So with the new capability coming out on Friday, there is 3 insights that will become available, and 3 insight types. And we're building more insight types for the future. But the 3 insight types that are available are forecast, variance, and bias. That's a backwards-looking insight type where it's going to look at your data and find variances between forecast and actuals, and it will also calculate to see if there's bias. So I don't think there's ever been a plan or forecast out there where there's not some degree of bias, whether it's purposeful or not purposeful. It can be debated, but bias can be calculated. In the second insight type, it's more of a forward-looking insight, and this is where we really are building our insight engine to work with our prediction engine. So you can look at your manual forecast and compare it to a machine-based prediction, and the insight engine will find the variances between those two. So you can have that objective discussion with your forecasters around, hey, machine says this, the forecast says that, why are you so far off from the forecast, from the prediction? And the last but not least is anomaly. Anomaly is important. You might think anomalies are easy to spot. Anybody can look at a dashboard or a report and maybe see anomaly. But actually, depending on the nature of your data, particularly if you have a fair amount of volatility, anomaly can be very difficult to spot. Whether there's volatility, you have to take things like trend into consideration. You have to take things like seasonality into consideration. So anomaly is really, quite frankly, there can be a lot of science behind it, and that's precisely what we do with this insight. Just a very quick demonstration, just simple screenshot demonstration. I think I forgot to mention it, but we do have a Cloud Customer Connect webcast on this starting on Monday, the 8th, November 8th. So you can see a much more detailed demo. But starting on Friday, you'll have a new Insights capability available that you can configure and turn on as an administrator. What that allows you to do is tune the materiality of the insight engine, and you can enable the specific insights for slices of data that you're interested in. So now when your users view this dashboard, as new data is loaded into the system, it finds all the things like new prediction insights or forecast bias or anomaly. It tells you the exact POV that this is in. It actually even calculates the dollar amount and the absolute percentage impact. It even makes an attempt at trying to prioritize this for the end user. And these are drillable. Obviously, you can click into this. Also, you can sort this. So generally speaking, you don't want to have hundreds of insights showing up, but you can tune it to your own materiality, and then you can sort, the end users can sort the insights as the way they want. And of course, it's all driven off of user security as well. Also, you can drill into the insight, you can add commentary, you can see that over here. You can actually open an insight in new web ad hoc form, which is a great new enhancement to web forms. and then you can view the actual insight. And you can see here that we give you a visual representation of what the issue is. We give a verbose description, and then we show the numbers down below. And again, from the ellipse, we could actually make changes. We could open as ad hoc, and so forth. So really excited about this enhancement. Again, if you want to learn more about it, please attend our Cloud Customer Connect on Monday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And again, go out to Oracle Cloud Customer Connect if you want to see that. Another important thing that's coming, predictive planning is a really important part of planning, obviously. We've introduced predictive planning years ago, and not too long ago we added Auto Predict, which allows you to automatically calculate your predictions. Now we're enhancing predictive planning to do a number of different things. First off, you can see what we're adjusting for outliers. So that's a more manual adjustment. Currently, there's an automated adjustment for outliers, but that makes some assumptions. So perhaps within your data, maybe you want to more manually identify something in the past as an outlier, and that will now be possible to do. Second enhancement is you'll be able to exclude time period or ranges. So that's actually pretty important too. So the pandemic, for example, and maybe that there's a lot of stuff you want to just ignore from the pandemic. So you could cut out the last 18 months, or you could cut out the last 6 months, or you could cut out 12 months ago, but you want to keep the last 6 months, whatever makes sense. And then last but not least is really the ability to configure events. Depending on the nature of your business, things like big promotions, or if you're maybe in a retail business, things like holidays like Easter or Ramadan or Diwali. Diwali's this week here in India. These things happen at different times throughout the year, and that if you don't account for the events correctly, that could skew the prediction. So these are all enhancements that come from the customer base. So thank you for logging these in Idea Labs, and we're working on them right now, and we expect to have these out in the next couple of months. So that really, I won't go into a lot more detail here. I want to make sure we have plenty of time for Marc. But if you've seen us present in the past, this is where we talk about. This is the slide we use to talk about our vision for IPM, or Intelligent Performance Management, which are really all our investments in these emerging technologies like pattern detection, like predictions using data science, like machine learning or regression algorithms, and so forth. Really, if you haven't seen this slide presented, I'll just quickly summarize it. What we're trying to do is democratize data science, democratize these new emerging technologies. So finance users and operational users around the business don't have to be a data scientist to use them. We do things like predictions or simulations or the new IPM Insights now in the context of your plans and forecasts. And so you don't have to be a data science, but underneath the covers, we have very sophisticated tools that allow you to leverage these technologies. Number one, we've talked about predictive planning and auto predict, obviously already in the product. Number two, over on the right-hand side, we already have REST APIs that allow you to work directly with any kind of third-party machine learning tool or third-party data science platform. So you can leverage that and still keep it connected to your planning and forecasting processes. Number three is this insight engine that I just referred to. That's coming, as I mentioned, here this month. It's coming to your development environments on Friday. Number four, another nice enhancement I'll talk about in a moment. That's ML model import. Allows you to leverage things like Python models and import that directly into the EPM cloud. And that also comes here this month, so in your development environments on Friday. And then the last really thing we're working on here is our AutoML engine, and that's still in the roadmap. But that's still we're certainly in the next calendar year we expect, or in the next 12 months we expect to be releasing features around our AutoML engine. So it's really exciting. These are long development projects we've had, and they're really starting to obviously come to the customer base now, and we're excited about this, and you should be excited as well. I'll finish up here just with a brief explanation around ML model import. This is probably not an enhancement that every customer is going to want to use, but if you are a customer that already has a data science team or somebody in finance maybe who knows how to do some data science stuff with maybe Python and whatnot, then this is a feature that can be really, really attractive to customers like that. It allows you to take data science projects and import the results of them into your EPM cloud to take advantage of it. A data science initiative, a machine learning initiative is almost worthless in the hands of data scientists, because it's not until you put it in the hands of the business people to make decisions where you actually get the value. And the kind of decisions finance needs to make is, if you find an insight, or you find through machine learning, you find that maybe one product line is going to grow faster than another product line, then you need to start to think about, hey, what are the financial investment decisions we need to make? Do we allocate more budget to this product line, and what product lines should we pull some of that allocation from, and so forth. So the ability to be able to leverage technologies is key. This supports two different types of machine learning. Again, if you're not a techie, you might not fully understand what I'm going to say here for the next minute or so, but we support multivariate regression, multivariate predictions, and also classification. The ML model import supports any third-party platform. So if you're doing data machine learning in Microsoft Azure or Google or any of the Oracle products, it'll work with them. And it uses industry-specific capability to exchange data. Data for data science projects are not CSV files. It's not flat files like you might be accustomed to. There's specific exchange formats like PMML, ONNX, and these are the formats that we support to bring that data in. We also have a wizard-based setup, really nice to do that, set that up. And then also what it does is it generates a Groovy rule that can be connected right to your planning process. So stay tuned. We will be having the Cloud Customer Connect on this later in November, and we'll get that pushed out, the Cloud Customer Connect, in a moment. But hopefully that gets you a little bit excited about what's new and coming. Unfortunately, in these sessions, we're only scratching the surface. There's a lot more to talk about, but that's precisely why I'm passing it to Marc. If you want to learn more and get the most out of your planning process, we've got a lot of capability here that helps you do that. And I'll pass it over to you, Marc. I'll stop sharing so you can share.
Alrighty, let me start sharing my screen. I'm assuming you're seeing my presentation mode, Marc?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. So yeah, how do we get the most from your planning processes? And I'm going to focus on some things that many of you may not think about when it comes to planning. You're normally thinking about within the application, features, functions, or what have you, but there's a whole lot more that comes with your subscription to EPM Cloud, and especially EPM Planning Cloud, that I know some of you take advantage of, but others, maybe you're not even aware of these features that are available to you to help get the most out of your planning process. So first of all, Marc mentioned this earlier, but Cloud Customer Connect. If you have any Oracle Cloud subscription, you can register on Cloud Customer Connect, and we really think you should. We have this category, or these forums. I've highlighted where they are in a quick screenshot. Obviously, I think you'll get copies of these, but we're underneath Enterprise Resource Planning, ERP, and then we have EPM. Within EPM, obviously, we have our other business processes, account rec, EDM, financial consolidation, etc. I've highlighted or boxed the ones on the right with planning and EPM platform. So those are the ones that on the planning side, we tend to focus on most. So I'm going to isolate on those. And what is the major difference? So the EPM platform one is meant to be, because we have financial consolidation and close, we have tax and soon profitability and cost management all using the platform. So there are some common things that apply to all of them. Like if you have a question or something around forms or Calc Manager, cell level security, dashboards. I'm not going to read every bullet point on this list, but these are the things that are typically common across the EPM platform. So you can use the EPM platform forum for those types of questions or troubleshooting, reports, security, smart view, valid intersections, workflow, things of that sort. For the planning forum itself, which is where I spend a lot of my time, I obviously poke in on the EPM platform one, but I spend a lot of time on the planning one. Clearly there's some overlap between these two forums, and people mix and match them, and we don't yell at people for it. Get on one of them, and that'll suffice. If we really think it needs to move, we can move it. But so certainly if there's anything specific from the platform features that are a specific planning focus or a planning use case, then by all means use the planning forum. Things that are unique to planning, like data maps or FreeForm or IPM, as Marc just went through. Clearly the modules, financials, workforce, capital projects, strategic modeling, all those things should be done on a planning forum, predictive planning, public sector, even our sales planning and strategic workforce planning, which have corresponding HCM and CX forums out there as well. We have all of these as tags in the forum. So these are the just differences between the two, just so you're aware of them if you're unaware of them. And then just a couple things about these forums. There are a bunch of planning enthusiasts. You have a lot of the same folks who reply to many of the posts, but we have customers, partners, and then plenty of different groups from Oracle, whether they be consultants, developers, pre-sales consultants, product management folks like myself and Marc. We're out there on a regular basis monitoring these. I love when I come back and check it. Maybe I go a couple days without checking it because I'm swamped. I normally check it every day, but sometimes I might skip a few days here or there. And I like coming back and seeing that other customers or partners have already answered some of these questions. And it really is building a community. And this is not just for administrators, right? Any user can register and connect on Cloud Customer Connect and be aware of features, solutions, things of that sort. So we really encourage you, if you've not gotten onto Cloud Customer Connect or bookmarked it, get on it, check it daily, check it at a minimum weekly, just stay up with it. And you'll see as I go forward here, there are a lot of things that we provide as part of your subscription to EPM Cloud to give you information to help you get the most out of that. So you can ask questions, hopefully you can answer some questions, share creative ideas. And then I do a what's new post every month. I'm a little late with my October one, but I'll double barrel that one with the November one soon here. And what I do is I take the what's new documentation that our doc team folks put together, and they have to be very formal. I can be a little bit more glib. So I try to throw in some snarky comments in there or some Easter eggs and links that'll hopefully make you laugh, just to get you out of some of the mundane nature of some of these topics. But I'll also try to add some additional context about why this is good, or hey, this is something that's been asked for in the past and this is the use case for it. So I try to add a little bit more context around that. So I really encourage you to follow that blog, if you will, that posting that I put on Customer Connect. Again, every month I typically put it out. So it's what's new in 21.11 or what have you. And you can look back at my historical ones to get any information that makes sense. But certainly encourage you to get active on Customer Connect. So Marc mentioned it also. For all of our cloud products at Oracle, not just EPM, all of our enhancement requests no longer go through the support request process. They go through these idea labs. So again, we have ideas, enterprise resource planning, and then we have EPM with both a platform and a planning request. And if you get it out on any of them, we normally can move them around to the right spot. But what I think you should do, you get your ideas out there, search the database first. I got a screenshot here of the search capability. It is pretty robust, keywords, what have you, authors, or you can look by status, things of that sort. But before you log an idea, do a little bit of investigation to see if one is already out there or if it's very similar to you. And maybe you can just upvote that and continue to add commentary or business justifications or use cases to that. But then, if it's something net new, put it out there. Otherwise, we're not going to know about it. Right. And then we encourage you to vote for these things. So again, I say to check this on a daily basis or at least a weekly basis. You should be checking this on a regular cadence, whatever that cadence is for you. But if you want to help drive the roadmap, this is what we're looking to. Right. So we want to try to see, and we can look at things. We can understand people stacking the deck. If you have 1,000 users and you have everybody upvote something, we can see unique by company or what have you. But it's good for us to know how many people agree or want this feature, right? And that's what helps drive our roadmap. So if you struggle with what's going on the roadmap, this is your opportunity. This is the full transparency, because we have these different statuses that we change these to, whether they've already been delivered, if they're planned. But planned or just the planned ones are committed. They're coming out in the relatively near future. There's some that we like, but we want to sort of parking lot them. So we'll put those into the option for future release. The under Oracle review means, all right, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'm trying to figure out what the requirements really are and how I can fit this in the roadmap, that type of stuff. obviously pay attention if we tag any of them as more information requested, because maybe we just have questions, don't completely understand the use case here, or did you mean X when you said Y? What, just, so, and then ultimately submitted, just, hey, this has been submitted in through, that's the original one that starts off. But so those are the different statuses, and you can search and query on those. And the planned ones will give you an idea of what our roadmap is. And if you don't see what you want out there, again, I ask, have you been voting on them? And get your teams and your colleagues to vote on these things and add new enhancements. You own the product. You should drive what gets in there. So again, very important to take advantage of Customer Connect. It's out there. It's included in your subscription. Another one that Mark mentioned is that there's another area. So we have the forums themselves, we have the idea labs, but we also have the events section. So here is just a screenshot. I took it yesterday, so it's pretty much up to date. And I think, Mark, yours is on Monday the 8th, right? The one you were talking about. I think the IPM one is the second one on that screenshot, if you can see that. But these are the upcoming ones. And, so monitor the EPM events and think just beyond planning itself, like SmartView, reporting, data integration, Calc Manager, EPM Automate. We have different events quite frequently about these types of events, which aren't planning specific, but you're using them for planning purposes. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, are using the whole combination of those that I've listed. And the very first one on that list, on the screenshot on the left, which is coming up, tomorrow, is the reporting and SmartView update for November. And I believe that team does it monthly. So sometimes people aren't, if you're not reading the what's new, you're not reading my blog, this is just another way to, beyond reading, to actually see demonstrations, to have Q&A ability to, again, most of these are interactive, so you can get your questions answered. But pay attention. These are things to let you know about new features that are coming, or creative solutions to get the best out of what you already own. So again, these are just the next 4 that were coming up. You can see, and you can watch the replay if you can't make the time. I do note that when I took the screenshot, I'm in the US Eastern time zone. So these times that you see on there are East Coast times. But you can watch them live, or you can watch a replay. The replay typically gets posted about 24 hours later, thereabouts. We also put the PDF of the PowerPoint presentations or any materials that went along with it. You can RSVP directly from the events listing page, which is good for us because it lets us know how many people are interested in this topic. Do we need to do this more? Do we need to do more like it? Or is this just a dud and we don't need to repeat that one going forward? So, RSVP right there. You can search the past events. There's search feature functionality out there as well. You can also, if you RSVP, there's another view of just your events, my events. So you'll see all the ones that you're registered for. So again, all this is included, valuable information. What's the latest and greatest in SmartView or reporting? Tune in tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. So again, encourage you to keep up to date with these events because they're here for your benefit. I took a quick snapshot, and these are all hyperlinks to the actual events, but these are the popular replays. So we have an entire best practices series that we did last December, January, and February, I think we might have leaked into. It was a 4-part series. And these are things that we have delivered for our partners in the past exclusively, but why hold back? Let's make sure all of our customers know about these types of best practices that should be followed. So it's a 4-part series that, if you're having problems with Calc Manager or Hybrid BSO, or you're interested in learning more about any of these things, these are great series to go back to. They're still relevant, and we will update them as we go forward. But even though these were done last December through February, they're still relevant today. Might there be a few things that are out of date or have been changed? Sure, but I think there's a lot of value in these. Mark mentioned the new features. Well, a lot of times we do new feature enhancements. So multi-cube freeform, if you're interested in learning more about that one, I think Shankar did one just a couple of weeks back, or maybe a month back, or what have you. I did one on cell level security when we announced that back in the spring. So if you're interested in learning about cell level security, you can certainly read our documentation. You can look at our YouTube videos. You can look at our tutorials, things of that sort. But at the end of the day, I also did a demonstration of it and a talk through of that. There's also one about auto predict, and then there are some deep dives that we do sometimes. Focusing on project financial planning. There's one that was done not too long ago. I will probably be doing one on workforce planning, and not just the classic stuff about how to use it, A, B, and C kind of stuff. What's the benefits and tax wizard look like, but how to get the most out of workforce and what we see in the field right now by customers, what they're using. So we'll be talking more about connecting, how you connect to either Oracle HCM or whatever your HR system of record is. What type of information should you be looking to pull? So we'll be looking to do those. So stay in tune with these events. Very important for you to get the most out of your subscription. Speaking of that, we also have created something called the Cloud Operations Guide. So I'd love to know how many people are even aware that this one exists. So this is where you should go before you log a support request. So this one is typically more for administrators. Again, it's not hidden from regular users. It's publicly available on our documentation. But if you're having some issues, you're trying to troubleshoot something, search the EPM Operations Guide. It might have it, because what we do is we build up and add to this on a regular basis, and we update that in the what's new documentation in my blog that I post. But here are just some examples. I've got the table of contents on the side there that you can see. I did a layer, a sampling of a layer down underneath each of those. So again, getting help from Oracle. How do I get help from Oracle? What if I need certain things? How do I do that? How do I monitor my cloud service? What about managing your user accounts? So there's some troubleshooting process tips and tricks and workarounds, things like that that are out there. Understanding our release change management process. So basically, what is that? That's a fancy term for monthly updates, right? So we release every month. Maybe you might be worried about any regression bugs. Hey, Oracle patches every month. I want to make sure that there are no issues. How do I deal with that? And understanding what that change migration is, what those procedures are to deal with when I'm in between version changes where my test environments are on a different version than my production environments. So there are lots of topics out there, as well as just general EPM cloud troubleshooting issues, login issues, issues with business rule errors or performance. So lots of tips and tricks and how-tos out there that are available to you that I just don't know if all of you are aware of and taking advantage of. Continuing that, and here are some really important ones that we really want to emphasize with you. This the EPM cloud related requests. Now, if you're an existing customer, maybe we're not at that point, but as you roll out, especially for partners, for those of you who are partners who may be on the call, as you start a new implementation, you should be looking to enroll the client in the implementation success program. And there's a whole thing about what that is all about, what it's meant to do. And ultimately, as it says, it's meant to ensure success of the implementation. So you're getting a resource from the development organization that's going to help keep an eye on your project and review design considerations. So we're trying to be proactive rather than reactive. Oh geez, this implementation went sideways. Oracle, we need you to help. We're trying to get ahead of that. So make sure that any new implementation you're starting, look through that in the Cloud Operations Guide to understand what that whole process is. That's a very important one, because it just starts you off on the right foot with Oracle in your implementation. There's also the request for performance validation. Hey, my performance has gotten slower, or it's not what I want it to be. So there's a whole process, operating procedure for you to request a performance validation of your application. Similarly, this request for automated regression testing. So again, the first Friday of every month, as Marc said, you got IPM Insights coming out. Well, maybe you're worried that something is going to break in your environment because of any new patch or anything we've enhanced. We can help you create automated testing scripts that are run from EPM Automate that will go through on the Saturday, the first Saturday of the month, that can run through use cases to test to ensure that your application is still working as expected and that there was no regression introduced by our monthly patch. That way you can come in on Monday morning and have an email or a report that basically says, hey, all good, or wait a second, I got some errors. So that would be something that should be very important if you're concerned about any of these issues on a monthly basis. You can request to have those use cases built out to hand over to you to run through EPM Automate. Very important feature that you can look into. And then there's also the request to design your comparison for on-premises IPM planning applications to migrate to the cloud. So do you need to look at any of those design impacts? Are there things that might be blockers, or are there things that you want to leverage as you go to cloud? So again, all of this is detailed out in how you do this in the cloud operations guide. And then ultimately there's an asking questions about EPM Cloud itself. How do you, asking how-to questions or other questions. Just important information that's out there that you may not know about. And in the past, I put this last bullet out here, the search feature. So all of our Oracle EPM documents were enhanced back this time last year, right? So 20.11. And again, hyperlink to this whole feature set, but it's new and improved Help Center search, where there's a much more robust search technology with a new user interface. It's been out for a year, but I know in the past when I've looked at searching our documentation, sometimes I'd get interesting results and maybe it was hard to actually find exactly what I was looking for. This new approach basically works the way you'd expect the search engine to work, similar to any other internet search engine. If I'm in the documentation and I want to learn about migration, I can type, migrate, or migration, or just even MIGRAT, you just stop there and do a search. And it's going to give me all the hits that relate to that. And they're pretty good in terms of order of importance. So again, it's a whole new technology that has changed under the covers for our Help Center that allows the searching to be much more robust. So, go ahead into the EPM operations guide and just search, I'm having problems with X. So just type X in and see what comes back. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by that. So tutorials, we've also got a number of tutorials out there. So again, this is just the Help Center for Planning and Budgeting Cloud. We also have video links and the books and EPM Automate, REST APIs, all those things on the left-hand side. I've highlighted tutorials here. And in the main content of the screen, you can see several hyperlinks to tutorials that will drive you through any number of processes, from just getting started to overviews to how to administer the whole process, loading and entering data, a whole series on Groovy, right? You've heard a lot of us talk about Groovy and lots of enhancements with Groovy. So there are lots of tutorials around Groovy. And then you get into the modules. You get financial planning with a whole bunch. Continue on, the whole thing about creating and approving plans, reports, integrations. There's some basic training there on the Groovy basics, strategic modeling, workforce planning, etc. So lots of tutorials that are out there that can help guide you through, and many of these are meant to be hands-on tutorials. They'll have an overview section, many of them give you an expected time to complete the exercises, some background, the prerequisites, and many of these are literal step-by-step with screenshots, with boxing. It's really meant to be very user-friendly to help guide you through this, to get the feel for features, common features, workarounds. So a lot of times we put in these things, here's how you can do a slight modification to the out-of-box workforce content to get what is a typical request that we hear of, but not enough to make it warrant getting in the product, or maybe it's on its way to getting added into the product. So being able to go through this, and I've added tips and tricks in there. There are notes and I've given this to our partners in the past. These are literal steps. I did have some snarky comments in it. I think because these are now more official and formal and as tutorials, they took out my snarky jokes or lame jokes, depending on your point of view. So a little bit more formal. But these are very good ways to help learn how to use. If you've never used Workforce before, you've never used the Benefits and Tax Wizard before, or you want to use something new in the Benefits and Tax Wizard, I've got every type of Benefit and Tax Wizard option, feature, bell, whistle, switch, knob to turn. I've got those covered in these hands-on exercises. So even reading through it alone might help you. Most of these are also based on the sample applications that we have available on Customer Connect in the Idea Lab posts. So that's, I think I had that on a previous screen. So I've got a hyperlink to an Idea Lab post that I have out there with the sample applications for the modules, as well as strategic workforce planning and sales planning. You can take a backup of your test environment and download that, delete the app there, and upload our sample application and actually go through these step-by-step tutorials to help learn what you're doing. So again, if it's better to learn by doing, you have the ability to do that. There are lots and lots of tutorials. We continue to add those as we go forward. Again, on the right is just a simple table of contents of one of the workforce ones. Customizing additional earnings. So, or adding, configuring additional earnings, and they build off of each other. So very helpful and certainly will help you understand the features better. So I think that brings us to the end. I see a bunch of things in chat, Mark. I don't know if people have been doing Q&A. I think we were supposed to be doing Q&A. I already answered the one while you were speaking, but
yeah, I can answer. So there were some questions. I provided a couple of links. So I provided the link to the IPM Insights webcast and Cloud Customer Connect. Also provided a link to the operations guide. But there was a question coming that somebody wasn't able to access some of the Cloud Customer Connect content. So let me just kind of address that. You may need to create a user ID if you haven't already done that, an Oracle user ID. You can do that yourself just by right there on the web page. It just takes a couple moments. And then also, I believe, Mark, you may be able to address this better than I, but if an implementation partner needs to access it, that partner, can all partners access it, or is it just the partners that own cloud instances, or how's that work, Mark? Do you know?
So I believe that any partner should be able to access that. I don't think you have to own it, but that we might have to just double check on that.
Yeah, I would have thought the OPN membership was enough, but I don't know. So, I know Catherine asked a question on that, so we'll try to follow up with you separately, Catherine. If you want to ping us via email or something, we can get you an answer.
So when someone asks, again, we're doing it in chat, I guess, instead of Q&A, but in terms of where can you obtain the test environment for learning? Well, every EPM cloud subscription comes with test and production. So I'm saying you can use your test one if you want to do the learning. And again, because of the portability of these applications, the LCM file is very easy to take a backup of the one you have, delete it, take the backup, store it locally just for safety's sake, I guess, delete the application from the test environment, and then import in this application. You can go through the hands-on tutorials.
Okay, I think that's it. Any other questions?
So in terms of Bill, hey Bill, how you doing? EPBCS customers, should I be planning for migration? When do I need to migrate? So I think as you come up for renewal, all of our customers, when we introduced, 1906, we introduced the new product SKUs, the new EPM Enterprise or EPM Standard. But when you come up for renewal, that would be the logical time to look at the value proposition around that, and if that makes sense to you. But if you want to continue on EPBCS, you can. But we think there's a lot of value add to switching over to EPM Enterprise. So that would be, you can do it whenever you want, but I think that would be the logical time frame for you to look into it. But certainly you can jump on that sooner if you see value add right now to take advantage of.
Yeah, so I mean, eventually, there's no urgency around migration, but if you choose to, when you renew, you can migrate there. And again, it's not just I know obviously the SKUs, there's a different price to get the EPM Enterprise, but there are things like FreeForm applications that allow you to pull in your Essbase cubes and whatnot. So, okay, any other questions? I think we're over time or at our time, close to at our time.
So hopefully this was helpful, just giving you a snippet of what's new and coming. As Marc said, huge stuff with IPM Insights. That is absolutely enormous. I know Marc is very excited about it, but really I think people really need to look hard at that and make sure that they're taking advantage of that. Again, it comes with the product, so it will help you. And then obviously all the other things that people don't necessarily think of with this entire community that's out there and this wealth of information that's available. There's a lot of value add out there for you.
Great. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of the conference.